If you share space with an American and you give it an hour or two, you will become friends.
And you will know certain things about them.
And you will be hugged. Bring it in. And they do the pat. You gotta do the pat. Hey guys, I'm Eric.
And I'm Grace. We're the Wandering Ravens.
We're a couple of digital nomads who have been wandering around the world for over 3 years, and we make videos about travel and culture.
If either of those topics interest you, make sure you subscribe to our channel and hit the little bell icon so that you can get notified every time we release a new video.
Today we are going to be answering the question, what is a dead giveaway that somebody is American? And for the answer, we're turning to Reddit.
I'm a little bit worried about this one.
Yeah, this could go many different ways.
That's true.
Are you guys ready?
Ready or not, here we come. When we talk, you are the only people who love it. Oh my gosh, you're Irish? This is kind of true. We've mentioned this in another video, how American people love different accents. They love different accents within America as well. So if you're international or whatnot, they will just love your accent even more.
If an American comments on your accent, I promise they're not being facetious. They're not trying to point out how weird and different you are. They genuinely like your accent and are probably in love with you. So there's a little bit of insider trading. If you ever visit the United States and you're from the UK or another European country, or really just any country, and you have an accent, you have a huge step up on the dating game. Reading the comments under this one, someone else does make a good point. Our ancestors passed on their Irish pride even though we didn't maintain the Irish culture. And yes, I know you hate it when Americans claim to be Irish because they had a great grandparent that was. And this is really true. If there is an American who has an ounce of Irish blood in them, they will let you know. Even though they're not Irish in the least.
Like culturally, not at all, but they're very proud that that's where their ancestors came from.
Apart from the accent, mostly it's the prepared for anything look that they have about them. Fanny pack, backpack, bottled water, camera pouch, compared to various other tourists. Americans are the only ones who seem to view a perfectly civilized modern city like some kind of uncharted jungle that doesn't have places to shelter in the rain or buy cheap bottled water. This is very true.
This is so true. Well, some places, to be fair, do not have cheap bottled water. It is true, but maybe that's also because most of the time, like traditionally, in previous years up until recently, traveling has been more of a retired folks thing, I feel like. Yeah. So, you know, a lot of retired American folks who don't have to work anymore and are better off will take a vacation to Europe, and those are the type of people that over-prepare for traveling, you know? They'll have all of the things that you could possibly need if you were stranded in like the Sahara Desert, because that's like their first time traveling or something. That's
a good point too, is that in Europe, when you see Americans, I would bet 90% of the time, it's that person's first time in Europe, and probably their first time out of the country. And so Americans tend to view going abroad as this massive expedition that they have to have a minute-to-minute itinerary for. They've got to have backups of everything and be prepared for everything because they've never done it before. No one they know has done it before, and it's this big, huge
They go out and buy an expensive camera before their trip even though they don't know how to use it or anything. They're like, I'm gonna need this.
They over-prepare, overthink, and that's just because they're psyching themselves out.
It's kind of cute though. Like, I know it's kind of quirky, but also it's their first time abroad, so you gotta be kind of like, welcome to our country, you know?
Yeah, pat them on the head and tell them, good job getting across the pond.
Yes.
And they'll compliment you on your accent when you do it. There's some other funny comments under this one. Someone says, you never know when you might need to change a tire, skin a goat, purify some water, climb a mountain, build a shelter out of whatever's handy, or defuse a bomb.
That mentality is derived from the fact that America is a very big place with lots of rural driving between cities and towns. So many people, usually from rural communities, have supplies in their cars in case they're stranded. Now apply that line of thought to international travel in an unknown city, and you get the American Expeditionary School of Fashion. What kind of stuff did you have in your trunk? In your car when you used to drive around in America?
Well, I'd have the jumper cables and all just the car equipment jack, the bag full of like a thing for blowing up the tire, spare tire, all that sort of stuff. I'd keep food in there, I'd keep water in there, I'd keep blankets in case I was stranded in the cold. So I always had 2 or 3 blankets in my trunk.
Yeah, that kind of shows the whole, in my car, I actually didn't really have anything useful, did I?
I had everything in your car.
Oh yeah, that's true.
I moved it all from my car to her car when we got married.
A lot of blankets, because my car is big enough for sleeping in.
And other things.
What? Incredibly loud, but incredibly friendly.
And then we gotta read some of the comments under this one. Thank you, kind non-American.
All caps.
You forgot to clap and tip him.
Tipping intensifies.
Good job.
Good job. Good job.
I can hear this. I hear this in my head. Good job. Good job.
Oh,
Good
no.
job.
You're like an American dad.
Yeah, that is such an American dad thing. Good job. Here's a tip. Good job. Good job. Ah, fellow American, it's good to see you alive and well on Reddit. Breaks hand via handshake. How are the kids?
This is true. Some people in America give painful handshakes.
I know. And they pump.
Yeah, it's like like bobbing up and down. It's like I would prefer to just stick to the Asian way, just like bow.
Bowing is the superior way. There's no risk of transmission of viruses or anything like that.
Yeah. And also
no love bees, no handshake, no hug, just
how are the kids?
Hi, nice to meet you. Wow, me and my wife are just having a great time here. Let me tell you a little about myself. Hour-long life story, and that's when I found out I had flat feet after I left the army. I have literally heard this story before about flat feet. People really like to talk about how flat feet and getting out of the army with their flat feet. For some reason. I've heard that story.
I've heard it too.
Yeah.
I've also seen it in American TV shows.
Oh.
And I'm like, what?
This is very true about Americans abroad, but first, asterisk, it is regional. Some parts of the United States are more reserved than others, but overall, Americans, especially when compared to Brits and French and everyone else, are much more outgoing.
And a bit of oversharers.
Yeah, that's a good point. Americans have personal space when it comes to physical contact. Americans like to keep space, like good 2 or 3 feet between them and other people at all times. Mm-hmm. But when it comes to conversation, the sky's the limit.
Yeah, they will share anything with you, anything and everything.
If you share space with an American and you give it an hour or 2, you will become friends.
Mm-hmm. And you will know certain things about them.
Yeah, and you will be hugged. That's the other thing. Americans always seem to say, when it's someone you don't know that well, you've just met, and it's time to say goodbye, they say the, bring it in. Bring it in. Bring it in.
I don't like that.
Bring it in.
Ugh.
And they do the pat. You gotta do the pat.
Okay, I did something super awkward because I'm not used to living in America anymore.
Mm-hmm.
When we met some people who are friends of my family, on departing that night, I gave them all handshakes. And right after it happened, I was like, that was not right. I was supposed to give them hugs.
Like you could tell, it created awkward tension.
It created an awkward atmosphere.
In America, unless it's a formal setting, you go right to the hug.
You do.
My girlfriend is German, and she's always yelling at me for speaking too loud on the street.
Sounds like she's the one being too loud.
I'm usually quiet on the bus or train, but it's almost like a library in Europe. As we've shared in previous videos, on public transportation in the United States, conversation is happening all around you.
I asked my wife, Japanese, she said, in Japan, I can spot Americans by the way they dress. Compared to Europeans, Americans tend to lack fashion sense. I can agree with this one. We've visited Japan several times, and the people there are very stylish.
Very stylish.
Like, especially the women. They look so great all the time.
They're kind of European in that way.
Yeah, I feel like their style is slightly European.
Korea as well, when we lived there, it was very important. Women, just going to the grocery store would put on makeup, dress up. It was, you don't leave the house without looking dressed up. And if you don't have makeup on, you wear a face mask. Which...
Did you start doing that?
Yeah, I started doing that. Because this face doesn't leave the house without makeup on. Why do you think that Americans don't dress up as well as most cultures?
I think American culture is extremely casual. Like, unless you're in a really businessy district in America, because there are different places that are like hubs for businesses and stuff like that, that are probably more formal. American culture is just you know, be yourself. Everything's casual.
As we've said in a previous video, Americans really value informality. And so in conversations, there's no hierarchy of language. You call everyone guys and dudes and bud and friend, and there's not...
Or even sir and ma'am. Those can even be used in non-formal contexts.
Yeah, even those aren't really considered formal. Yeah, there's not really any classism in that way. And so I think that carries over into the clothes, so people don't really care what you wear. But I'll turn that over to you guys. Why do you think that Americans lack fashion sense when they travel and in public? Drop your thoughts down below. I'm an American. I was in Italy a few years ago, and an American couple stopped and asked me for directions. I gave them the information, and then the husband said, "Your English is very good. Where did you learn to speak it?" I'm from the Midwest, so I said, "Minnesota." His wife asked me what I was doing in Minnesota, and I said, "Growing up." I don't think they ever understood. Oh, this is a really good one, because this is something that I feel like happened all the time in Korea to you.
Yes, that's right. It would happen a lot. I would try and help tourists find their way to the palaces or different things like that if they didn't know which station to get off at. And they'd be like, "Your English is so good!" And I'd be like, "Thank you! I'm American!" And then there would just be awkward silence.
It always made them feel so awkward.
I know, they just wouldn't say anything else after that. There'd be no follow-up.
There was a couple times too where you were actually, the tourist you helped were Asian American.
Yeah,
And
so like me.
Yeah.
And I'd be like, "Can you not spot another Asian American in the wild? Hello?" When you can hear them before you see them. Does this mean because they talk loudly or because they're just like elephants? Like boom, 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 boom.
Save the children! The American
Stampede!
Oh, the comments under this one are really funny too.
Oh, no.
We've got "just heralding the freedom." That's the Italians, so this is some disagreement here.
All right,
with
all
the
right.
Italians. Would you say that it's fair that Americans are a lot louder in public?
Yes.
Yeah.
I think
it's
they
fair.
are.
Yeah, we just talk at a higher decibel.
I've heard there's actually a reason because of our accents is why we talk louder than some other people.
Really?
Haven't you heard that
No.
before?
Mm-mm.
I've actually heard that there's a scientific reason why Americans talk louder.
Well, I would like to know that answer because I want to be able to say, there's a scientific reason for it, so shut up. Brits also speak English though.
But their accents are not the same as ours. I'm just trying really hard here. This is actually what I've heard. It's probably bullshit, but I have heard that.
Okay, well, if you guys have any theories about why Americans speak way louder than everyone else, please drop your comments down below. And no, I don't think it's because Americans just think they're right about everything or are super aggressive.
No, it's not a sign of aggression.
Aggression.
It's not a sign of aggression. Maybe just a sign of premature deafness. I don't know.
Because even sweet old ladies in America speak way louder than sweet old ladies anywhere else in the world.
Yeah, it's true.
Speaking as a former barman or bartender, tipping. No British person will ever tip a barman. I'll occasionally get bought a drink by drunk ladies or gents, but Brits actually giving me money for doing a job that I was already being paid for? Never happened. I would listen for American accents, which were easy to hear due to their natural loudness, and would immediately serve them next.
This person's sneaky, I like it.
Tipping does work.
Yes. I'm English, but I've lived here for 14 years. It's pretty obvious just from your demeanor. Americans generally are more confident in the way they present themselves. Most other countries tend to be more reserved. Walk into a room full of different nationalities, I guarantee the American person will be the first to introduce themselves. It's a confidence thing and I admire it. Aww, this is nice.
Yeah, this is a positive one, I like it. And that's an interesting point. In America, it's really emphasized when you're growing up that you should always introduce yourself. And if you want to be successful and all this sort of stuff, you gotta be like the person that sticks out the hand first and introduces yourself.
Yeah.
So there is a lot of, just from childhood, there's a lot of emphasis put on...
Being assertive? Is that the right word?
Outgoing, maybe?
Outgoing, confident?
Confident, yeah.
Self-confidence.
To not introduce yourself right away is rude.
Oh no.
Again, we're speaking from the Pacific Northwest. We're from Seattle. That is the region of the United States that we are fluent in. So this could be different depending on the region. I've been living in Germany for 10 years. Before that, I lived the other 10 years in America. So I'm bilingual, even though my English isn't perfectly fluent anymore, and I have a slight German accent that only Americans notice. I was working at a convention and this American guy starts talking to me, and I'm having a very good time, as I rarely get the opportunity to speak English with an American. So I tell him that I'm actually from America, assuming he heard the different accent. And he says, I know. Of course I ask, how did you know? And he answers, because Europeans say, but Americans like you say, kind of blew my mind. Oh, I like that one.
That's kind of funny. I would have never identified that, but it is
really
correct.
True.
Yeah, Europeans, well, I mean, the thing probably has a different accent depending on which European country you're from. Like in France, it's kind of like something like that. Like that.
The thinking noises.
Yeah, I don't know. I probably just butchered it. But yeah, in America, we do say a lot.
Yeah.
Although I also say
I don't know if they say that in the UK. Do you guys say in the UK?
What's your thinking noise? Just like a thinking filler noise.
Yeah, let's turn this over to you guys. Question for anyone who's watching. In your country, what are those filler words that you use? Do you say Drop those down below.
Americans describe distances in driving time as opposed to miles or kilometers. My European relatives always make fun of me for having no clue how far away the next town is, but knowing exactly how long it takes to get there.
Ooh.
That's really true.
That's a really good
We'd be
one.
like, oh, it's like a 3-hour drive away. We'd never be like, it's 300 miles away or something like that.
Just real quick, how many miles away was work from our house?
Oh, man. I have no idea, but I would guess like...
How many miles away is Seattle from our house? How many miles away is your family's house from my house?
15 miles?
I don't know.
I don't know either.
I don't know any of these numbers.
I have no idea. Yeah, because driving speeds change depending on where you are. So you'll be on the freeway and you get to go 60 miles an hour, but then you'll get off on an exit and you'll have to go 30 miles an hour. You wouldn't really think of it in terms of miles because your speed is constantly changing. Yeah. So I think for that reason, you identify it just in minutes, how long it takes you to get there. You're like, it'll take me this long, but if there's traffic, it'll take me this long.
That's true, especially in the Seattle area. We're famous for having pretty bad traffic. And so people, if you ask someone how far away something is, they'll generally say, it's about an hour drive if you're leaving at 11 in the morning. If you're going at 4 in the afternoon, it's gonna be a 3-hour drive. They generally give both answers.
They'll give you two. They'll be like, with traffic, without traffic times.
Yeah. Before we wrap it up, what would you say are some of your favorite dead giveaways that someone's American?
Logos. If somebody is wearing a hoodie or a hat that has a city or a college on it, they're American. I don't think anyone else has that much loyalty to their city or state or university.
Yeah, college and university.
Like University
swag.
of Washington.
Yeah.
This team, that team, go Seahawks, that kind of stuff.
There was an American that we ran into in England, and we started a conversation with him because he was actually wearing a university shirt that's near us.
Yes.
And so we were like, UW!
You're a UW guy!
Yeah.
He actually said he purposely put it on to attract other Washingtonians. He was like, if there's anyone else from Washington in this hostel, they'll see it and they'll be like, hey, fellow Washington person.
And that is true. A lot of Americans do that. They'll wear a sports swag or a university or city swag in order to draw those other people who do that. Because if you, like, as a Seattleite, if we see someone wearing a Seahawks cap in Europe,
it's gonna be like, oh my gosh.
We're going to go talk to that person.
Wow, you're here too? We're in this together. Let's go out and have food together.
Yeah.
That is just so American, isn't it?
That's kind of
like American. You see someone's hat, you cross this over to the other side of the road, you're like, let's get food together. I feel like I know you.
And now let's turn the conversation over to you. What would you say are some of the dead giveaways that someone is an American? Drop those comments down below and let us know. This thread wasn't actually as harsh as I was expecting.
No, it wasn't. It was really quite nice.
Again, I'm Eric.
And I'm Grace.
We're the Wandering Ravens. And if you enjoyed this video, make sure you hit the thumbs up button for the YouTube algorithm. We'll see you guys next time. Bisous.